afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another NerdTube Star Trek episode review. We are here tonight talking about Star Trek The Lower Decks, Season 4, Episode 5, Empathalogical Fallacies. Um, Thanks for joining us tonight. This is going to be a spoiler review. Um, I am Major Rage. I'll be your host this evening. I am joined, as always, by my fellow Trekkie in arms, Lieutenant Junior Grade Cousin Cheeto. How are
I'm
you
ready
this
to
evening?
clean out all the holodeck waste dispensaries.
It's an important job. Somebody has to do it.
Somebody has to do it.
I wonder how they compensate, the jizz moppers of the future.
Jizz moppers. Ha!
Oh, we
Oh,
will be joined very shortly by Zamario, who will be back with us after a little bit of a hiatus. But we will not hold off on the festivities for now. This week's episode was a little bit of a back to form. It's typical lower decks goofiness amidst a normal Star Trek situation. Revelry kind of gets out of hand as the Cerritos transports a trio of Betazoid diplomats to Risa. Meanwhile, Boimler undergoes some unorthodox security training, and T'Lyn is trying desperately to send a communique to her former captain. Like I said, felt like a return to form for me. What were your overall impressions of the episode this week, Cheeto?
I liked it. I mean, you said return to form. This is kind of what I want. The goofy, zany adventures of the lower decks crew. Although, and I'm trying to think of it right now, but there was a part. Do we know, is it canon that the Caitians used to eat Beta Zeds? Like, do we know? Because see, this is another one of those things where it's like, if this is canon, what the fuck? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's
Like,
pretty dark for the Trek universe.
and I mean, it could be true and it could be canon, maybe in some book somewhere, but at the same time, like that's why I'm saying I have to go back on my I'm gonna make a T-shirt that just says Lower Decks is loose cannon, and then I'm gonna have like a cannon that's like loose hanging off the side of a ship or something. It's gonna be great.
Beautiful. Put it on the Milk Toast merch store.
Yeah, no, it'll be on Nerd Tubes. It
We
has
have
more
a
Nerd
we
Tube.
we have a merch store?
Oh, we don't have a merch store. No, you gotta have people that'll
Yet.
buy merch first. I mean,
I
come
will
on.
buy a NerdTube shirt. I
Oh
will
well, in that
gladly
case,
sport my NerdTube shirt in public.
I will. We'll make a nerd. We'll make a nerd. We gotta get people like doing the Patreon. We gotta, yeah. Before no, we can do some merch though. I've always had some ideas. Anyway, tangent over. But yes, like these are the questions that like I always look for this, like where it's like, wait a minute, if Lower Decks is canon, is this canon though? Like, is it canon? And just before we move on, I want to go through a couple of comments really quick. We'll start off with Daniel Vance's. He says, NerdTube store now accepts nerd bucks.
We are flush with that currency here.
Yeah, right. You'll never convince me that the Beta Z women weren't depictions of Melania Trump, Michelle Obama, and Hillary Clinton. Oh my God, I did not realize that until you said that. But
Now that he says it, I see it.
I see it too. And then Daniel Vance says, engage, mage. He also
I will make it so.
Before we started, he said, if you are early and haven't seen it, very short treks yet. We are going to be doing a overall short treks review. Me and Mage actually watched 2 of them while we were waiting backstage for this to start. And yeah, so we'll probably have thoughts on these when they're all released and the whole season. I guess it's a season, right? Is it a season of them? I think there's 6 of them.
Yeah, you could call that a mini season. I could see you calling that a mini season.
So what me and Mage plan on coming back and talking about the short treks, at least, in a short, quick recorded vid. But anyway, so back to you, Major Rage.
No, so this was a good episode, I feel like. Like I said before, tip the zaniness, but we've got, a situation arises, your more typical Trek situation, and it's up to the crew to navigate it. But however, in their trademark fashion that only the California class could pull off.
Mm-hmm.
But an interesting feature of note of this episode, like I've pointed out, like throughout the season, how I feel like the writers' room are bouncing around to Lynn and trying to find her a spot, who to pair her with, and figure out who kind of her partner is. And they paired her with Mariner this week, and I felt that was to great effect. And I feel like the fact that it was Mariner made the scene near the end, where we have the character growth out of T'Lyn and kind of her opening up and sharing her vulnerabilities with Mariner. It's more poignant when she opens herself up to somebody else who is closed off and guarded, as opposed to the other three who are more open books. Oh, there's the man himself, Kazette Zam Zam down below. Thank you for joining us, sir.
You're welcome. Sorry, I'm keeping things dark, but I don't want to wake up my birds, so I'm keeping it as low leveled as possible.
Looks like you just walked in and sat down and joined.
That's exactly what I did.
I know.
I'm still wearing my shirt and tie. Yeah, so
Snazzed up for stream this evening. You're gonna the audience is going to come to expect it, mate.
yeah. Well,
What were your overall thoughts of this week's installment?
well, for a start, I like the fact that it was a Tillin centric episode. I think that was pretty cool. I kind of got an idea that something was affecting the ship. Horny Betazoids is always funny. It reminds me of Troy's mum, yeah, and all of that. Yeah, it was just another crazy eccentric day on the Cerritos, which is something that we're coming to expect now with every episode of Lower Decks. So yeah.
Can you
And
guys
also,
believe that we are already halfway through the season? Because there's 10 episodes? Like we're already halfway through the season.
Yeah, it seems like it's flying by. That I feel like it was a mixed bag airing the first two episodes on the same day,
and I
especially with
also, sorry, go on.
with the length of the episode, the seasons being what they are now, with only 10 episodes, you think they would want to stretch it to keep Trek coming out as long as possible, especially with the writer's strike. I know we're seeing the light at the end of the tunnel on that, but still production is going to be delayed, with exponentially compared to the amount of time that it was stopped due to the strike. So we're looking at a pretty long stretch before more Lower Decks. So you would think they would want to try to stretch it out more.
Well, before Strange New Worlds, Lower Decks. The next one we're gonna probably get is Discovery.
Disco.
Yeah.
And we still don't have a hard date for that.
No, I think we're gonna come up to a lull here. I think honestly, because of the writer strike, I think we are gonna come up to a lull here of content. Like obviously we won't feel it now because still a lot of the stuff is coming out that had been done prior to. But I think we're gonna hit a moment where it's just like, wow, there's like no anything for like 6 months, and I think it's going. The writer strike is gonna hit then. So
We'll see if everybody online is quite so critical after having to sit a drought for a little bit. Might make us appreciate content a little bit more.
yeah.
So I'm thinking this week we'll do what we've been doing previously, and we'll look at the different plot runners. I identified basically two plot hooks this week. The main situation being navigated by Mariner, T'Lyn, and the captain, and the Boimler story with him training with Shax. And then just a final segment where we kind of point out funny running gags or jokes or point out references we caught this week before we do our marks and final thoughts. Sound good, gentlemen?
Yep, a Rooney. Spin a Rooney.
So this week's episode is the main conflict, ended up being the crew being adversely affected by the telepathic projections that we were led to believe came from the Betazoid diplomats. We kind of started with, it's framed around Talin trying to send the letter, and we get that instead of, the typical log of some officer. We get a personal communique. It just, what did you guys think of the party scene? Like when they finally arrived at the bar and made it down there, like that, it just, I could tell almost immediately is like, this is a lot even for the Cerritos crew. Did you guys have any sort of feeling
Yeah.
that something was going on right then?
I knew that that something was affecting them to be more eccentric, and I was very happy that that was immediately picked up upon by some members of the crew. And this is a formula that we've seen before, where not nearly everyone gets affected, but not everyone. There's only a couple of people who are around to save the day. In various formats. Like there was that episode of Voyager where that fucking giant entity in space wanted everyone to believe that they were going to come back home, and they affected everyone's minds except for Seven of Nine and obviously the Doctor, who is a hologram. There was that game people were playing, and everyone was affected except for Wesley Crusher and his girl crush, and they had to
Ashley
try and get
Judd.
Ashley, yeah, I was about to say Ashley
yeah,
Judd.
and had to get data on board to help everyone. There's always something like that, and in this particular case, um Freeman was kind of self-aware that everything was, even though it was affecting her to a degree, she was reasonably self-aware. Even Mariner was self-aware to a degree, but she was going with it. But obviously Talim was extremely self-aware, but plot twist as we come to as we figure out later on. So yeah, I love stuff like that. I love these sort of episodes. I do. Where it takes a couple of people to save the fucking day. So yeah.
Daniel Vance says, I giggled at the guy who was stuck standing there just smiling and playing the Qatarian game, TNG headset. Yes, we after everyone else's issues had ended. So there's
I
still
didn't catch that. That's a nice nod. It's like, oh, not everybody's been saved.
yeah, right. He'd get there eventually. Everybody has to deal with their addictions in their own way.
Yeah.
There was one aspect of the A plot. There was one moment where it felt like it was one of those, the writers just have to create more conflict to keep things moving and fill the airtime. And that was just the disproportionate response everybody had to Lynn when they ended up having to hold themselves in, leading to Mariner and her having that moment. Is that just me being me, or did that kind of did that seem disproportionate even for a compromised crew to you guys? Cheeto?
I don't know if it bugged me. I mean,
That's me
So
being me.
I'm trying to understand what you're trying to get at here. Can you?
It just
I'm
it
not.
seemed like even if they were, in this compromised state that was very much like the Naked Time or the Naked Now, that Starfleet officers would be used enough to Vulcans to not take her Vulcanness so personally. I'm picking it.
They,
I'm picking at straws here.
I never thought they took her Vulcanness so personally. I think, if anything, it was just Tillin being maybe more self conscious, which is what Marin kind of explained to her in the end, which kind of got them out of that predicament. So I don't think anybody. I think people are very used to Vulcans. I think it was just you can be very self. We all could be very self conscious about how the world portrays us, and it was Tillin's problem.
I
Not
mentioned that one specific instance this episode where they find themselves having to hide out in the closet and get pushed in there by the mob, ostensibly. That's,
yeah.
and me being me.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if it bugged me. I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, I don't know if
For me, my issue was the fact that this never affected everybody on the ship because I like the fact that you got the security guys doing basically doing stuff that keeps them cool and calm and collective, so they're not going nuts all the time. But nevertheless, they weren't affected by Tillin's thing, which was a bit weird because everybody else was. So I found that a bit weird personally. That was it.
I thought about that at one point too. It's just maybe, but it didn't stick in my craw like that other aspect.
No, no,
Um,
yeah, I agree. I'll go with that too. It didn't stick in my craw either. And just want to say thank you very much. Sponge cleaning took a bit long today. Yeah, and I'll be doing some lawn mowing tomorrow.
All right,
Sorry
then
for
one
my
other
hard
one.
darkened
work, but
state.
somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
It says I had a problem with pacing of this one. It felt about 7 to 10 minutes too long. The extra plot with Blumler could have been dropped. I mean, I feel like the plot with
You need a
Blumler was
subplot.
it was a subplot. I felt like it wasn't that good,
No, not at all.
but I
But
didn't feel like it needed to be like I don't feel like that extra 7 to 10 minutes should have been dropped. I feel like they should have done something else with Blumler in that 7 to
I
10 minutes.
look, as much as I like Jessie Gender, there are times where I think she goes a bit OTT with some of her explanations of things. But one thing I did like about the subplot with Boimler is that you do see that these hard asses are trying to do different things with their spare time, which is one good thing. And secondly, they were happy to have Boimler with them, even though he's not security, he's command. So they were accepting of him, and he's still part of the crew and those into those little moments. So yeah, I appreciated it for those sort of things, if you know what I mean.
it was a very wholesome subplot, just the reveal at the end that this security team takes a holistic view, and Shax regards the emotional well-being of the crew as part of keeping them safe. It's very wholesome, and it just the lower deck seems to be very pro mental health and self-care, and just all the new Trek embraces sort of those ideas. uh you know we saw the beginnings of that, in the late 80s with putting a counselor on the ship and everything. And it was very progressive at the time because at that point, barely anybody talked about mental health. It's a big thing now. Sorry,
Yeah,
this office is going nuts. Um, but just, I enjoyed that. And, it's just, I like you said, like the hard asses, you know, engaging in typical like non-martial, non-security type activities. And
hmm
Shaq's the big, strong, tough, intimidating guy is worried about Boimler's mental health, and the program is giving him a day off for self-care. And just a subversion of expectations is always fun to me. But
yeah, yeah,
I agree with Cheeto.
exactly.
Like they could have done something else with it. It almost feels like the B plots have been weak the past 2 weeks in a row, and maybe they should just drop the idea of having a B plot, and maybe they're trying to cling to it because it's just so intrinsic to a sitcom formula at this point. They fear that audiences won't recognize it for a sitcom if it were to not have a secondary and sometimes tertiary plot runner.
I
Okay.
mean, yeah, but I think, yeah, I mean, I do feel like you're never gonna get an episode of Low Decks as short as it is without a B plot, sometimes even a C plot, and even
I
at
mean,
times
sometimes
even a
they do a
D
D plot
plot.
too. I mean,
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that what was it? The first episode, I think, or the second episode? There was like so many freaking plots I couldn't see straight.
Yeah, but if it helps, establish certain characters that could do a little bit more establishing, then I'm all for it. And having Shax um it's just maybe showed that there's more to him than just being somebody who wants to die in a fight. um, is a good thing.
Agreed. Um, the only other thing that what did you fellas think of the scene between Mariner and T'Lyn there at the end, where T'Lyn kind of opens herself up a bit? I feel like this was like the strongest point of this episode, and I'm not sure if you had joined us yet or not, Zam, but I was telling Cheeto that I feel like Mariner was the best choice to have to Lynn have this moment with, because she's the most guarded and closed off of our lower deckers. It's more
Yeah, I agree.
poignant for somebody to open up that is also closed off and guarded, and maybe she wouldn't have to some of the open book characters, but it kind of gives us this moment where they both let their guard down. What did you think of that scene, Zam? We'll start with you, then move to Cheeto.
I, I liked it, and it kind of shows that Tillin is not maybe your stereotypical Vulcan either, um, which is important because a lot of them recently have become like the recent portrayal of Vulcans is arrogant fuckers who think they know best. And what I got from Tillin is that she was willing to learn, and from people and from all types of people, even though she kind of to a degree wants to move, almost feels like being on the Cerritos is a punishment, but then she learned to appreciate it, and it's no longer seen that way. Yeah, I'm liking this character. There's they
No,
are really creating a different type of Vulcan here.
it's she's a very deep and nuanced character, and that's very un, untypical for a Star Trek Vulcan. We've seen Spock and T'Pol kind of explored and shown as more than just a one-dimensional kind of caricature that's either robotic or, like you said, an arrogant prick. And you know, I applaud Lower Decks for taking the effort to go through and deepen and expand on like the classic Star Trek alien race, and that they've been doing a lot of heavy lifting for expanding the lore of some of these races in a way that no series has done since Enterprise.
I mean, I look at someone like Spock, and you can tell Spock's human element plays a significant part because he has a bond. He has a bond with his crewmates, and I think that comes from being half human. It's just something that's kind of natural to him. Um, it's weird in a way regarding somebody like Tuvok. I think him maybe being an undercover agent in a way added some elements to him, but same. But then you go obviously with the Vulcans from Enterprise onwards, and they've always been stuck up, and so I think these portrayals have just gone on a bit too much recently. So it's good to get more Vulcans with more characteristics and just being stuck up. That's basically it. Yeah.
And Cheeto, what were your thoughts on the emotional payoff of this episode?
Well, I mean, it kind of solidifies why the Vulcan captain had an issue with her, because I mean, really, there should be no emotional payoff for a Vulcan, um, which I didn't mind. But I mean, did they ever explain what was actually? I only watched it once, but did they actually explain what was going on with her, like how she began to broadcast telepathic emotions? Like,
She somehow had got Bendai syndrome at an early age. If you'll remember from the TNG episode
mhm.
Sarek, that's the condition that Spock's father had.
Mhm.
Uh,
But so she has it,
she
correct?
has Bendai syndrome, but just developed it at 62 for some reason.
So she has it going on though.
Sarah,
It's not like a temporary thing that was started by an anomaly, and like that's what I'm saying. Like, so now she's got it. So I guess now, you know,
That's something that they either have to
deal
acknowledge in
with
the future
or
and deal with, or
Mhm.
it's going to be a glaring plot hole if they just let it go away and not be a thing ever again.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
they could.
and Sarek apparently had the same issue.
Yes.
Apparently, and I'm trying
Hmm.
to remember when was this?
It was
That
on
Mage
TNG. He
Mage just
was
said it was on TNG, and it
he he
was
uh he was on the Enterprise to conduct some negotiations, and they had that scene where he mind melds with Picard, and Picard takes on all of the emotions that Sarek can't repress because of the syndrome. And honestly, that's my it's my favorite Patrick Stewart acting scene of all time. The
Mhm.
man runs the gamut of every emotion an actor can display in one scene,
Damn.
and it doesn't feel forced or ham-fisted at all during any of it. And
And
it
I mean,
could
he had the
easily come
transition
across.
between.
Those transitions could easily be cringe AF
Mhm.
and just not play right, but he knocked it out of the park.
Yep.
Better than there are four lights, huh?
Um.
Barely beats it out. Barely beats it out.
Yeah, I was about to say that would be a close note. No, I mean I remember that scene. Like that is you're right, Mage. That is a fantastic showcase of Patrick Stewart's acting ability because you're right. Like, see the thing about the four lights is that there was a lot of buildup and there wasn't much transition there. Like there was transition, but it wasn't so frequent. Mage is right, is that it could have been a very cringe scene, but he made those transitions work because you actually felt like he was going through the gamut of those emotions. And remember, it's not the fact that Vulcans don't have emotions. Their emotions are so like, what's the word I'm looking for? So intense that Patrick Stewart acted his ass off and he made me feel like, wow, those are really intense emotions. But that's how Vulcans are underneath it all. They have intense emotions like that. So I no, I agree with Mage. As I said, I think it. I think that the Four Lights episode is better, but I think that scene acting is some of Patrick Stewart's best.
All right, fair enough.
Um, so, one of Daniel Vance's comments, or two of them, kind of transition me to the last part of the A plot runner that I'd like to discuss, and that's the true nature of our Betazoid ambassadors.
Which comment you talking about?
The two about the neutral zone,
Okay, I'll bring it
which
up.
so
Uh,
yes, they fixed the error made by TOS and SNW in this episode with the neutral zone line. Uh, on this episode, Romulus and Rami were in the correct quadrant. Um, so yeah, these ambassadors are actually members of Betazoid intelligence, and they are hijack the Cerritos to go back to Beta Z when their cover is blown. They think, and they're going to go through the neutral zone. Um, what did you guys think of the kick-ass spy cougar Betazoids? I started with Zam last time. We'll go with you first, Cheeto.
I thought that part was kind of cringe where they turned out to be secret agents or what. Like, I think they really should have just been cringy cougar diplomats. Like, I really just feel like it should have been like them turning out to be, the Beta Z version of the Tal Shiar is kind of like, no, like I thought that was stupid. I'm like, sorry. Like, I liked them as the original characters, but like when they transitioned into that, I'm like, no. And honestly, I don't mind them knowing how to fight. I mean, who knows? Like Beta Z women may know how to fight really good. We don't like, besides Majel Barrett's version and Deanna Troy, we don't have a shit ton of information about Beta Zs. Like, there could be
Yeah,
a whole like sect of Betazoid women that
they
like
get
are.
married naked, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, all weddings are naked. So yeah. So
Lovely.
lovely. Zam's having a Beta Z wedding next week in his front yard.
Mate, I couldn't even be around the beta Z as well because they'll be repulsed by some of the shit they read in my mind. So
You would get a
And they are
lifetime ban from the
telepaths,
planet for sure.
yeah, they are telepaths, aren't they?
Are they
but
telepaths or
but
are they
no,
empaths?
because
They're
you saw them reading each other's minds and talking to each
Hold
other
on.
through telepathy.
No, hold
they're
on. You go ahead, Mage. I think I know what you're going to say.
they're telepathic with other beta zeds, but they can't read the thoughts of non-betazoid peoples. They can read their emotions empathically, though.
And I think well, and I
Oh,
think that they did read what's her face's mind, but I think she had to like touch her, didn't she?
See, that's Picard. So can we even really
No, no,
trust
no.
it?
That was this episode. Remember when she got the image of the other girl or the other lady saying, "Oh, she's such a whatever, whatever." Wasn't that through?
Through the cap.
Yeah, wasn't that through the captain? I'm gonna look it up.
Now I'm blanking. You look it up. We'll move on. We'll get some Zam thoughts. Did you feel
on
strongly one way or the other about these characters or that particular reveal?
oh, they were. I think obviously they were having up Troy's mum a little bit
Mm-hmm.
in this to a degree, but he had three of them. They were like socialites and all of that, partying, free versions of Paris Hilton, I guess. Um, I
Well,
don't
no,
know.
but actually, hold on. This comment here, Zam, you may not have been in here when he said this. Daniel Vance said, "You'll never convince me the Betazoid women weren't depictions of Melania Trump, Michelle Obama, and Hillary Clinton." I mean, I
Oh
see
my
it.
god, I see it.
Yeah.
I see it. I do see it. I wish he never said that, but I see it. Fair enough.
I'm almost there.
So
So
you haven't got me at my best.
keep
It's
I do
distracting.
okay.
apologize.
Thanks for joining us. We
I'm
appreciate you, mate. Um,
yeah, a little bit fatigued. I do apologize.
been out driving all day. People don't get to and from the
Oh
airport by
yeah,
themselves.
yeah. I'm gonna make it for lower decks, and I was fucking going like 105 miles per hour on the fucking M1 while it was raining. I'm thinking, no, I'm not gonna miss another. I missed like two or three episodes already. So yeah, I wanted to make sure I got home for this one.
I feel like they felt backed into a corner when they wrote these really funny characters, and then they're like, "Oh crap, it could be read as problematic if we just leave this as these are the characters." I think like the fact that those are like cover characters that they're acting like is a way to pass the buck on having written these caricature type, like extreme
Yeah, I mean,
characters
yeah,
that could be read as
I like the fact
misogynistic.
that yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they were undercover and they had a job to do and all of that. I mean, it gave them some more layers and stuff. But they did. I like, and they did feel that they weren't responsible for what was happening on the ship, so they were on the defensive
Mm-hmm.
regarding that, and maybe it almost felt like they could have been set up, to make it look like it was their fault and all of that. So yeah, it was some interesting elements. I forgot what their mission was, by the way. You
To
They
look
were
maybe
looking
into
remind
for
the
me.
clues
mystery ship.
about the mystery ship, and I like that this episode lightly ties into that, but it still stands on its own 2 feet by itself as a standalone episode of Lower Decks. I feel like
The
that's
mystery
wins
ship.
over the one that's been blowing up the various ships that have been shown either in the beginning or the ends of the episodes this
Oh
season.
yeah, 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 yeah,
It takes
yeah,
over their
yeah, yeah.
systems, disables, then destroys them. Um, I feel like that's how overarching season plots work best, is when it's reinforced and built slowly and gradually instead of these big, like, every few episodes, this is one of the episodes about the plot. And you got to make sure you watch that one. It just make it where it all ties in just a little bit. Give, but not any one episode to the point where you can't follow the overall season arc if you don't watch every episode or you watch them out of order. Just make it a little bit more accessible for people that can't make sure they can't prioritize consuming content over other aspects of their lives, if that makes any sense.
Makes sense to me.
So, okay, so just I was reading up on the telepathic ability. Apparently, it just depends on the Betazoid. You know, some Betazoids have much higher telepathic abilities than others. So,
It's what the writers need at that moment. Understood.
Yeah, because technically she didn't touch. Like, I was looking at the part, and it's like, yeah, technically she didn't touch the captain to read her mind. She did a whole Professor Xavier thing where she's, you know, where she did this and, you know, just kind of saw through her eye, or not through her eyes, but, you know, saw the scene. So, you know, yeah, I mean, I've heard them say that they can only go between other Betazoids, but I mean, apparently some of them are stronger than others. Said in half Betazoids, at least, the ability to sense emotion could be hindered by the individual's own emotion of it being strong enough. So, I mean, it just depends. Plot convenience, whatever the plot needs at that point.
All right. Well, I'm glad we looked that up. That was going to bug me. So I think that pretty well covers the main A-plot runner for this week. Do you guys have anything else to discuss or to add about this aspect of the episode, or are we ready to move on to the B-plot?
Sorry, while I was looking stuff up, did we talk about the Romulans just sitting there on the neutral
The
zone border?
lurking. That was coming up in the jokes. Like that's probably my favorite joke of the episode. It's like, let's go to Sector 87. We'll go lurk over there.
It was funny, but it's like the neutral zone's actually like
the neutral zone bothers me. Like they're directly across the little border. Where is the zone? Like a demilitarized zone is a area. Like,
so technically, the Romulans had already broken the neutral zone. The Romulans already broke the neutral zone, because if they were that close to the Cerritos, who was going to the border of the not of Romulan space, the neutral zone. So that means the Romulans were already in the neutral zone.
In my mind, the Romulans are always in the neutral zone.
I know, right?
They don't give a shit.
And then when the Federation goes in the neutral zone, they're like, "How dare you be there?" Well, why are you here? Because we're watching you. Like,
pretty much, yeah.
The Romulans are just hypocrites, is all they are.
They are. I mean,
I've never look. Let me be honest with you. I never really fucking understood. I never understood the whole neutral zone shtick. It's just bollocks to me personally.
It's there, so there's something that's an allegory for the Cold War.
It's international waters. Like, no, like it's supposed to be a zone where the Federation and the Romulans should not be able to go.
It's like the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea.
Yeah, like it's a space. It is not like a line. It is a space between two people's territories that is supposed to be that where the Federation, where two sides cannot go into that area without special permission from both sides. So I mean, like, you know, that's why, like, they have to talk to Starfleet Command. Starfleet Command then has to reach out to the Romulans. They have, you know, and then normally, like, I think there was one episode of TNG where the Romulans like had to, like, they actually said, okay, fine, we'll let the Enterprise go into the neutral zone, but we will also send a ship in to watch you. You know what I mean? Like, I forget what episode that was, but you know, that's, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the neutral zone's always
Berlin Wall in space.
Yep. Nope. Sorry. But it's not the Berlin Wall in space. Like, that's the thing. The Berlin Wall in space is actually like a territory border. The neutral zone is like, again, like Mage said, the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea.
It's crazy seeing a line there, because we're talking about 3-dimensional space here.
Mm-hmm. And it's got border beacons.
Yeah.
Like the Z-axis doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So, you know, we did have a B-plot runner. It's kind of weak for a B-plot runner, I think, is kind of the consensus.
Mm-hmm.
here, but
Between you two, I liked it.
you like the B plot runner?
Yeah, I liked seeing different dimensions to guys who you initially think would be all about fighting and stuff, them reading poetry and them playing little games and stuff like that. I
Oh no,
I like
having an expectation subverted like that and flipped on its head is great. Like that is I'm always for subverting
and
expectations.
then when they are needed, drop out of a hat. It's time to get it on.
Flip
Put
the
on the
switch.
get the phases and the double phases, as Boimler was saying. you know,
So look, Zam. Okay, so right here, so see how this is a zone, not just a line. So that all that space in between there, because like you can see, there are several star systems that are actually in the neutral zone. And yes, I get what you mean. Like it's space. It's not just left and right, north, south, east, and west. It's also up and down, and it's all directions. So I understand your point there, but that's why this is a zone. Like there's actually systems and planets in the neutral zone because you can see some stars in there. So yeah, it's
and
so
how often do we see
it's not
Romulans
just a
outside
border,
of
it's a
the?
zone.
So how often do we see Romulans outside of that of their area all the fucking time?
Because
And
they're Romulans.
They can get away with it. They don't have to abide by treaties. Like
They think they don't because they got a cloaking device.
that
how
that the treaty bothers me to begin with. You sign a treaty is like, okay, we won't have cloak technology. Usually you're making the concession of, we won't have it, but you can't use it either. But the Romulans and Klingons get to use stealth, you get to use their cloaks all they want, but if the Federation does it, it'll cause an all-out war. Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, pretty much it. Yeah, that's always been the way. Like everyone else is allowed to make mistakes and fuck up, except for the Federation. If they fuck up and make mistakes, then it's how dare you slap on their wrists, all this sort
Right?
of
I
shit.
mean, Riker is freaking out on the Pegasus episode. Like they can't let them discover that the Federation was doing secret experiments on stealth tech. But apparently it doesn't have what's good for the goose doesn't have to be good for the gander to the Romulans.
Yeah.
And you have to respect people's cultures and religious beliefs, unless it means you getting killed by it. And fuck it.
Was the Kobayashi Maru the
Fuck it is a
Kobayashi
better
Maru
way.
was the Kobayashi Maru was technically in the Klingon neutral zone, which I don't think was a thing. Like I think it was a thing in Star Trek 2, but I think that was it. You know what I mean? Like I don't think there's ever been mention of a Klingon neutral zone except for Star Trek 2. Now, maybe the Khitomer Accords got rid of the Klingon neutral zone, and that's why we never hear about it anymore. But yeah.
I
Fair
like this
enough.
comment from Gemini.
Which one?
The one below the Kobayashi Maru one.
The Romulans are an allegory for China. This is true.
This is true. The
This is
the
absolutely
Klingons are
true.
the Soviets. The Romulans were China.
Yep.
Who are the Soviets?
Klingons. I'd say the Cardassians were
Klingons.
more the Soviets.
Well,
but
in the original
series.
when the Cold
Yeah.
War was in the heat of it.
Yeah, no, you're right. I know, but
the Cardassians are almost kind of Germans with the war
Oh,
crimes and atrocities.
I guess you're right. Yeah, that is pretty.
But also,
true.
there was the whole Bajoran occupation is also smacks of the Bosnia-Herzegovina conflict, which was active at the time of DS9
Mhm.
getting written. So I always felt like Bajor was like is symbolic of Bosnia.
See, look,
and
the best thing
Yugoslavia.
that happened to the Cardassians was DS9, but as far as I'm concerned, they was just too similar to the Romulans in every aspect. They felt like the Romulans, and so and it's very hard to differentiate them between the Romulans even to this day. Regarding their look, obviously, um,
Whoops.
outside of their looks. They are pretty much the same people. Don't you think?
Mm.
I
I'll
mean,
have to get my thoughts together on that. That sounds like a good, highly illogical podcast.
and also, I mean, look
Downtime.
what the Romulan, or look what DS9 did for the Ferengi as well. So I mean, DS9 did a lot for a lot of races. Let's be real. That TNG just kind of touched on and then kind of just let them go, like Cardassians
that is the
Bajorans.
Ferengi, but still the Cardassians. Everything about them, they just feel like the Romulans.
I mean, they are both similar. That's why they had a treaty that then they tried to go after the founders together. Like, you know what I mean? They just very similar races, but I would definitely not call them carbon copies, because I mean, you know, Cardassians are more I want to say extroverted.
They're I would say Cardassians are more arrogant, whereas the Romulans are more concerned
Really?
with their doctrine. They are so obsessed with infinite expansion and mistrustful. You don't have that element of mistrust of everyone with a Cardassian, even though they seem more than willing to backstab each other to rise in power. There's not that constant. They're just plotting and lurking.
Yeah, I mean, definitely Cardassians are more expansionists, and Cardassians are more expansionists, I would say, and then Romulans are more. I want to say self-preservation, but they also believe in expansion. But
yeah, their doctrine is infinite expansion.
yeah, but they want to
This will
do
get
it. They
the
don't want
job
to do it
done.
through conquering. They just want to do it through political. Like they don't want to really invade. They want to own influence. I would
Right,
feel
which is
that's a good highly logical podcast idea.
I don't
Talking
know
that
about
we're
invading and stuff like that, because we've seen in recent films that they've been invading, baby. We saw in Nemesis with that giant ship of Tom Hardy's. We saw
he was
Eric
a
Banner
Reman
come
then.
back in time with his fucking but still, I mean, he was with
Okay,
the
first off,
Romulans when they were doing that shit.
yeah, the
Eric
scimitar.
Banner
The
coming back in
scimitar
time
was
with
a
that giant
Reman
ship,
ship. It's not a Romulan ship.
but it was the Romulans who used it, and
no, it's not. It's the
and
Remans. The Remans used it.
hold on. No, they're an offspring of the Romulans, aren't they?
I think they were conquered by the
And
Romulans, but they're not. No,
look,
the Remans. I think that
It's
was a Reman ship.
Yeah, they
I
developed
thought they
on
were.
the moon of Remus,
They
and
were they were a Romulan race that just kind of
they
like
got
were a bit
subjugated.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they got subjugated. Yeah, they got conquered.
they
Okay.
developed alongside like Neanderthalers and Homo sapiens, but instead of
I just
one.
remember some of the scenes with the Romulans, but they worked alongside the Romulans, wasn't it, to sabotage the Federation? Isn't that correct?
Right, but they were subjugated. They were
Yeah,
like they were
didn't
like
join.
become a caste underneath the Romulans
All right,
almost.
all right. Then you got Eric Banner.
That was a
Coming back in
mining
time.
ship, dude. That was
And
a
that
mining
ship
ship.
That's
was fucking.
Kelvin
And
verse
that mining ship,
too.
No,
that mining ship was like next level.
yeah, that's because it was from the future. It was future technology, but he even said in the movie, he said my mere mining ship was able to, destroy this, that, and the other.
But they destroyed Vulcan.
With dark or with red matter.
With that mining ship.
The ship
But I'm
didn't
just
do it.
saying,
They literally
they were all into but they're all into conquering and destruction. That's what I'm trying to get at. And
they were out for revenge. I really okay.
Yeah, by destroying an entire, by causing mass genocide, and then
For
obviously
revenge.
recently in Picard,
not conquering, revenge.
We had those Romulans as well. We had Romulans in Picard as well, season 3.
Yeah, what's left of them? In season 3, I mean season 1.
Season 1, Anyway, I'm just
Next stop, Tangent Station.
Yeah. Sorry.
All good. No, so back to the B plot. I thought the activity selection was kind of funny, and I really enjoyed the Like the charades part was funny to me. I liked the dig on tarot. Like, it pretty bold move to make a dig on tarot reading when given the nature of so much of the fan base. Loving that sort of thing. Just a great dig. Um, do you guys have anything else to say about the Boimler Shaxby plot?
No, I mean I love how Shax calls him baby bear. Like
That running gag is great. Just
it's a subtle gag, but it's just like like it's a subtle gag, but it's always nice.
I love that they've just built the dichotomy of the guy. Like
Yeah.
the biggest, toughest, baddest looking MFer on the ship is also one of the most emotionally in touch and worried about emotional well-being.
And he has a relationship with a cat.
Let's see if it pays off for them.
And talking about the cat, we have what's their face? What's that? I
Dr.
keep forgetting the name of
at the eating,
and
eating betazoids.
wanting to eat the betazoids. Yeah,
the cat jokes are great. I love every time they do just the house cat jokes. I know it's low hanging fruit, but it makes me laugh every time.
I think Zam wasn't here when we talked about it. I said, I guess if Lower Decks is canon, then I guess that means that the Caitians used to eat the Beta Zeds, in times. So I guess that's canon now.
Well, in the Terran race seem to be cannibalistic in their own right, so fair enough.
But we didn't eat other races, but like that were sentient.
Kelpians.
We did we? We didn't.
Terrans.
In the Terran universe, yeah.
That's who he just said, though. That's
he said the Terran. I missed the Terran part. And yes, the Remans are a subjugated slave labor race within the Romulan Star Empire. So they are not Romulans. They are a race that was subjugated by the Romulan Star Empire.
I give the writer credit for creating. I give the writer for I mean, they really are trying to make those differences, and you saw that in Discovery. But I like the fact that they did create two races that pretty much look the same, but made them as different as possible with the Vulcans and the Romulans. I mean, the Romulans are definitely emotional, and they do have the same strength as Vulcans. I think I've seen it now. So, yeah.
No, good stuff. Looks like we're about to the end of it. Want to throw up the poll? We could talk about it's already up.
Yep.
Any jokes or references in particular that you guys enjoyed this episode?
The bird doctor going, I wanted my soup like my mother had regurgitated it, or something like that.
Yeah, no, him freaking out was great. Paul F. Tompkins does a great job voicing Dr. Miglimo.
When he freaked out at that machine, I knew then there was something wrong. That's when I picked up on it. That machine. Yeah.
You mean the replicator?
That wasn't normal behavior. When he was pissed off, when he actually was swearing at the fucking replicator for not making the soup the way he wanted it.
Paul F. Tompkins doing that 180 turn is always great. He's been doing that since Tenacious D. It just gets me every time. I was a fan of the Reed puzzle.
Yeah, right. That was a nice little nod.
I mean, and he doesn't get nearly enough credit. Nobody loves Malcolm except me.
Hey, I like Malcolm.
Baldur's Gate.
He's not my favorite. Yeah, off topic. Do you guys play Baldur's Gate 3? No, but there's somebody in the chat who plays Baldur's Gate 3.
Mm-hmm.
That would be this guy right here.
Me and the wife are getting it soon. We just found out that there's couch co-op on the PS5 version. We need to look into you can do remote play with that too, because then we could get you in on our game, Cheeto. We could do a 3-player game.
Oh, for Baldur's Gate, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never played it. I've never played Baldur's Gate 1 or 2, but
I'll teach you. It's D&D combat engine. I can teach you.
You need to get FIFA FC 24 Mage, and we could play pro clubs together.
You play on PS5, Sam?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Shoot.
Dixie says he wants in. Me too.
Well, heck yeah.
You get PlayStation 5 as well, Dixie.
I think he
We'll play
does.
some pro clubs.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it
Oh
before.
yeah, NerdTube Baldur's Gate campaign. Here we come. And yeah,
Listen,
I could
we
get some
tried to
matches
get
in on
a
FIFA with Sam.
we tried to get a NerdTube Star Trek Online thing together, and it just never worked out. Nobody's ever
we were
available at the
supposed to
same
play
time.
We were
Yeah,
supposed to play
scheduling
some
is a
sort of
nightmare
Star
with
Trek
us.
game.
And Zam always is like, "Where do I go? What do I do?" I'm like, "Zam, just read." No, tell me where.
Good news, Dixie, is there's crossplay on Baldur's Gate. There's crossplay.
Yeah.
But nope, all sorts of fun activities for us to get into together as a group of nerds. You know, we like all sorts of stuff here at NerdTube, whether it be MCU, DCU, Star Trek, Star Wars. We talk a little anime. With Dragon Ball, we talk video games. You know, we sometimes do Final Fantasy content here. Me and Cheeto, joined by the Bearded Man thing. Food reviews. Zam does food reviews. Any sort of scripted
we're kind of moving
content
them they've
to
been kind of
TikTok.
moved just to our our TikTok
Okay,
channel, which is also called NerdTube. So yeah,
that's
you'll find our
definitely
fruit
something to
reviews
check
there.
out
And I
too.
reviewed this. The Terry chocolate orange. And you know what? There's some left, which kind of shows you
Nice.
what I thought of this fucking thing. And this is not a regular chocolate orange. This is toffee crunch.
So if you're kind of all over the place like we are here at NerdTube, you should definitely consider subscribing to the channel. We're the best channel that you maybe sort of kind of heard of. So check us out on TikTok, here on YouTube as well. Just want to thank everybody for joining us tonight.
Are we giving our ratings?
Oh, we're absolutely giving our ratings. I
Oh,
just felt like
okay.
it was time for the blurb right there. It felt smooth.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Normally that blurb's at the end, but
At the very end, I know. I was like,
we'll just
hey,
everybody we'll just
way to
end
do
it and everybody scream out your rating at the very end.
No. We'll start with you, Zam. Final thoughts and a mark for this week's episode.
It was funny, it was enlightening, and it had its good moments. So I'm going to give it a nice, but average 7 out of 10.
Fair, very fair. How about you, cousin Cheeto?
I think I'm going to give it a 6. Just because, yeah, I think the B plot didn't add anything or do anything for the episode. I mean, it was a standard episode of Lower Decks with all the zany goofiness, but it just didn't feel like it had that it factor. Kind of like the holodeck, like what was it, the holographic training episodes where they were stuck in all the holodeck pods or whatever they were called, and like it just didn't have that it factor.
I love that episode. I just rewatched it the other night.
That's what I'm seeing. Yeah, like I don't feel like this episode. That's kind of the same vein of this episode.
Oh, okay. I'm saying okay. I see what you're
So
saying.
I felt like this episode did not have that it factor like that episode did. So this one just felt a little bit of an underdog. And I think maybe if they had a better B plot, I think maybe it would have made this. It would have enhanced this episode. But I really feel like with the bad, well, the lack of B plot and just like. Pretty good A plot, like the Cougar Town Betazoids were fun, but other than that, like not really much to speak of in my opinion of this episode.
No, Jim and I gave it an 8.
Huh?
Jim and I gave it an 8.
Well, that's good. I'm glad Jim and I gave it an 8. Go over to the poll and vote. Nobody's voted for 8 to 9 yet, so that means you haven't voted in the poll. Click the poll. Click the like button too. It helps with the analytics. The analytics.
Absolutely.
Analytics.
Yep. So I've had that thing happen. Ooh, wow. 4 from Daniel Vance.
Well, there's also nobody on 4 either. Daniel, how could you not vote? Because if you gave it a 4, 4 is at 0%. Daniel Vance. Gotta click that button.
So I initially wrote down an 8 earlier, but I've had one of those things happen. Whereas I think through it, we discuss it, I look at things from other points of view. Yeah, that B plot didn't do the episode any favors. I was riding the high of the A plot. It's the characters are being themselves. The Cali class goofiness is there, but with a normal tech, Trek type threat. We had some references, some standalone, just it's a Lower Decks episode, but like Cheeto said, it's missing that special something. So I'm gonna knock mine down to a 7.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
So
what
that's
I
where I'm
gave
gonna
it.
land.
I think maybe we expect sometimes too much from these shows, and we should be just happy that that it delivers decent
Mhm.
entertainment.
Oh
I
yeah, I
give it
mean,
I give it
7.
above average marks. 6 and 7's good. Like, I mean, that's what I don't get. Like, people think 6 and 7 is bad. It's like, no, that's still above average. Like, like if we gave it like a 4, like somebody in the chat right now, like, I mean, maybe we could, but no, 6 and 7's above average marks.
Yep, fair enough.
We'll see how it holds up in the test of time in a couple of years when it's time to throw on something at the end of the night that I don't worry about cutting off in the middle of it. And we'll see how this one holds up. But I'm
On
gonna
top of
stick
that,
with
we
7
can
for
look
now.
at it like in a retrospect with the season review we probably do at the end of the season,
This is
like
true, yeah. But that's been our review of episode 5 of season 4, Star Trek: The Lower Decks. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me here tonight. Wouldn't be the review without you. Thank you to everybody who shows up to view, everybody who participated in the chat. You guys are the reason why we are here. Uh, it wouldn't be the same without you. It'd just be us screaming into the void. And where's the fun in that? It's getting the back and forth, and the feedback is where it's at. Um, so thank you all for joining us.
You mind if I
Hope
jump
this.
in really quick?
Go
Just
for it. Yeah.
one quick plug for if you go to our channel and you go over to the community tab, we've actually started a tag team tournament where we take some of our wrestleheads have thrown out some of the what they feel the 16 best tag teams in WWE in professional wrestling history, pretty much from at least the big promotions. So we're going to be doing a voting tournament. So the first one's up. It's the British Bulldogs versus the, why am I drawing a blank? Beer Money Incorporated. So if you guys go over to the community tab, you can vote for your favorite tag team. But yeah, we've got 16 teams, and I don't know, maybe at the end of the tournament, maybe we'll do a deep dive or a whole video, like hour-long podcast or video or something on the winning tag team. I don't know. Maybe we'll send them a picture of our anuses. We'll send the winners a picture of our anuses. Who knows? We might do something. But anyway, go ahead, Mage. Sorry, I just wanted to throw that out there. Just go to the
No.
community tab and click the little vote button. We got stuff over there.
Definitely got always stuff for the wrestleheads here. Sam, do you want to? What do we have on the docket for the Friday night? The world's gone insane. Let's talk
Oh,
about it podcast for
I can't
tomorrow.
remember everything, but one of the significant things will be Taylor Swift and how certain demographics of people are hating on her for simply asking people to vote, making sure that more people will vote. How can that be a bad thing? But some people do. You know why? Because they're worried about maybe losing this election coming up if Taylor Swift has anything to do with it. So yeah, we're going to be talking about her and various other things on the docket. Ginger Greek knows more than I do. He's been running this. We'll be talking about a couple of other celebs of lesser caliber, so to speak. Like medium-sized celebs who've lost their jobs through saying stupid things. Some of them are British celebs in the British radio and media industry, so you might not everyone might know them, but they've lost their jobs. Some people call it cancel culture. Other people call it being held accountable for your
Consequences.
actions.
Yeah, consequences for what you
Yeah,
do. I mean, don't be stupid.
Funny
exactly. So
concept. Such a crazy concept.
exactly. So yeah. So lots to talk about for sure, and that will start tomorrow at 10 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. Eastern, and 2 p.m. Pacific.
Excellent. Hope to see everybody there. Never know what we're going to end up talking about. Just goes in the direction chat wants. Just look forward to everybody's input. Thank you again for joining us. To everybody in the audience, everybody in chat, and to you gentlemen. Trout. Live long and prosper and have a good evening. You've been watching NerdTube, the best channel you've sort of
Yeah.
kind of maybe heard of.
Bye-bye.